When you hear the word Bitcoin, what comes to mind? Probably risky investments, right? Wild price swings, digital gambling. But what if that's only half the story? Today, we're going to look at a completely different side of Bitcoin, where it isn't about getting rich quick, it's about survival. Okay, let's get into it.
Seriously, just stop and really try to imagine that. Everything you've worked for, everything you've saved up for your family's future, gone. Or not gone, but worth a fraction of what it was just yesterday. The money in your bank, the cash in your pocket, just becoming worthless paper. You know, this isn't some kind of thought experiment. For millions of people in countries all over the world, this financial collapse is the brutal reality they wake up to every single day. It's a constant, crushing crisis, and it forces them to look for any way out. So what does this failing system actually look like on the ground? Well, it's a total perfect storm. You've got hyperinflation, which means the money in your pocket today will buy you less tomorrow. Then you've got the banks, the very places meant to protect your money, suddenly slamming the doors and telling you, nope, you can only take out a few dollars. And all the while, governments just keep printing and printing more and more money, which just fuels the fire and completely shatters whatever trust people had left.
So, right in the middle of all this chaos, when the entire official system has just completely broken down, something pretty incredible starts to happen. Regular people, families, and small business owners, they start turning to a solution that might honestly surprise you.
And this is the big question, isn't it? It just sounds like a total paradox. Why on earth would you trade your failing currency for something like Bitcoin, which we all know is famous for its insane ups and downs? It sounds like you're just jumping from the frying pan straight into the fire. But the answer to this question, well, it changes everything.
It's because their motivation is completely different from ours. This isn't about speculating on an asset. This is about pure survival. And that forces us to completely reframe what we even think of as risk.
And this really gets to the heart of it. It's the classic lesser of two evils principle. When you know for a fact that your currency is on a one-way trip to zero, the volatility of Bitcoin suddenly starts to look, well, a lot better. The risk with Bitcoin is a possibility. The collapse of your currency, that's a certainty.
So this is the fundamental choice that people are facing. On one hand, you have the official system. It's controlled by a government that can print your savings into oblivion, with banks that can just cut you off from your own money. On the other hand, you have Bitcoin. No central authority, a different kind of risk for sure, but it gives you access to your money across borders with no one's permission.
So let's step away from the theory for a second and see how this is actually playing out in the real world. Because these aren't just abstract ideas. These are real stories from people using this tech as a genuine lifeline.
First up, Venezuela. This country went through one of the most extreme cases of hyperinflation in modern history. We're talking inflation rates in the millions of percent. Prices would literally double in a matter of days, sometimes even hours.
In an environment like that, people just started using Bitcoin for everyday stuff, not because they were tech geeks, but out of pure necessity. As this quote gets at, even with all its wild swings, Bitcoin was just more stable than their own national currency, the bolivar.
Okay, now let's jump over to Nigeria. Here, the problem wasn't just inflation. It was severe banking restrictions that made it nearly impossible to do business with the outside world. Young entrepreneurs were just totally cut off from the global economy.
For them, Bitcoin became a workaround. It was a way they could pay their international suppliers, get paid by clients overseas, and ultimately, it was a way to keep their small businesses, their dreams, alive when the traditional system completely failed them.
And maybe the most chilling example of all comes from Lebanon. Just try to imagine waking up one morning and finding out that the banks have frozen everybody's accounts. Your life savings are right there. You can see the number on a screen, but you can't touch a single penny.
In that situation, for the people who had some of their money in crypto, their digital wallets weren't just an alternative. They were the only way to access money. They literally became lifelines, letting people buy food and medicine when their own banks had locked them out of their own lives. All of these stories, they just paint such a powerful picture, right? They show us that we're really talking about two totally different worlds, looking at the exact same technology through two completely different lenses. It really is all about perspective. And that contrast is just so stark. Here, in stable countries, Bitcoin is often called a risky bet, a casino coin for speculators. But in unstable economies, it's a lifeline. It's a tool for survival. And it's something even more fundamental. It's hope. Hope for a way to save, a way to transact, a way to escape a system that's already failed.
Now, let's be crystal clear about something. This is not some perfect, magical solution. Crypto comes with its own very serious risks. That volatility we talked about, it's real, and it can be brutal. Scams and fraud are everywhere, preying on people who are new to it. You also need reliable internet, which isn't a given for everyone. And let's be honest, the tech can be really difficult to use. But here's the crucial point. When your only other option is a system that is already completely collapsed, these risks can start to feel like a small price to pay for a shot at freedom.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most powerful idea in all of this. What we're actually watching happen here is more than just a new financial tool popping up. It's the birth of a whole new kind of trust.
I just want to let that sink in for a second. After decades of watching trust in governments and banks get worn down and just shattered, people are choosing to put their trust somewhere else, not in a human institution that can fail, but in the mathematical certainty of software, in code.
So the next time you hear someone talking about Bitcoin, maybe think beyond the price charts and the crazy speculation. Think about the millions of people for whom it represents a choice, a tool, and a new form of trust in a world where the old forms have let them down. And that shift? Well, maybe that's the most powerful use case of all.